Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I heard there's a lot of people connected already. We are here for today's webinar, Libraries Tackling AI Challenges. The agenda for today, we're going to have a short opening introduction by me. I'm your host with the help of Federica Viazzi. Then we have a presentation on Supercharged by AI, a creative intervention on AI literacy by Maria de Brastefer and Elena Versa, and an insight into the FÖB chatbot of the Vereinigung, the Association of Public Libraries in Berlin, by Tilman Schell and Moritz Mutter, and sometimes for some Q&A. This webinar is the second in a series. So the series covers various topics. So the next one will be next week on the Digital Compass, a practical guide for public libraries, etc. So don't miss the next one. More info on the series and on its organization has been given in the previous webinar. And which is already online, so you can watch the recording. So your hosts, me and Federica. Well, I'm a librarian at the University of Trieste in Italy, and I'm here today as member of the Italian Library Association, IB, and of ELAN Expert Group on Digital Transformation. Federica Viazzi is a co-member of the IB Board for Information Literacy. She is currently in charge of special collections at the Central City Library in Turin. She previously worked at the Biomedical Library in Alessandria, at BEIC in Milan, the Foundation for a Digital European Information and Culture Library. She's also an educator. She taught at the University of Pavia and at the Casa di Carità Foundation in Turin. She'll help me keep an eye on the chat and your questions. So the title chosen for today is Tackling AI. But why should we tackle AI, and why just tackling? Well, there's a lot to think about, because since 30 November 2022, ChatGPT, in common language, AI seems to be equaling chatbots and generative AI, as if it were the end of the story. There's been a certain hype around AI. So in recent years, the IFLA statement on libraries and artificial intelligence 2020, 2021, the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI, the AI Act by the European Union 2024, but it's a long story. It's not only recent, it's not just generative AI. Well, I'm not going to tell that long story from the article published in 1950 by Alan Turing, Can Machines Think? We don't have all months now here to stay and speak, but the point I wanted to make is that since the start, the initial idea of AI, it's been how can we get machines to think? So it's been basic on logic, which is a part of both language sciences and mathematics. It's interdisciplinary. And in its development, it took many shortcuts. I'm taking the term shortcut from the work of Nello Cristianini. He's an AI scientist at the University of Bath. These two books, if you haven't read them, take a look. They are really interesting and can be read also by non-computer scientists. And he speaks about shortcut, explaining how very often in the evolution of AI, what happened was that some technical solutions were found to solve technical problems, but they in a way determined the direction AI took. In the case of Frederick Jelinek, what he worked on was a system for automatic translation and orthography and yes. And so what he did was he put aside everything that had been done up to that moment. And he started working at IBM in the middle of the 1970s. And he thought, why don't we feed the machines with plenty of text and let them work through probability, what is the most likely word to come out next in that point. So the statistic shortcut was one of the choices that determined the kind of AI we have today, which is not always what we want. It gives a lot of opportunities, but also some challenges. Today, the AI is not an exception anymore, as in the documents we saw before. It's the norm. And so we're beginning to talk about AI, the recent DIGCOM 3.0, which underlines the framework for the competencies of European citizens, speaks of, was rewritten because they wanted to integrate transversally AI competence, because it's really embedded in every aspect of our lives as citizens. And since it's not an exception, it's also embedded in the work of the European Library Association Network project, where the key area 3, the one I'm involved with, deals with and the area which organized these webinars, and is involved with digital transformation, transition, digital skills, and the potential of AI. So this is why we are trying and tackle the topic. All these technical shortcuts brought us to, this is the vision I have in mind when I think of AI nowadays, that large language models know the word the way we tell them the word is. So they know what we let them. And so in a way, what we get from AI is what these two monkeys get from the mirror. We are feeding machines with some information on ourselves, and the image they give back depends greatly on the information that we fed them with. So this logic and language-driven knowledge through the shortcuts we talked of before is returning a mirror of a word, which is not necessarily what we want. So for libraries, this means a lot of challenges and opportunities as well, like the opportunity to enhance services. And so that's why we're tackling today the topic. We understand, everybody understands it's too wide to be treated in one webinar. We will look at individual examples. We will look at how libraries can tackle AI literacy, a project which lasted for some time now and involved many libraries across different countries. And then we're going to see an example of how AI and these machines can be extremely effective when they are applied to specific contexts, like in the case of catalog chatbots. So I thank our speakers for being with us today. And we move on with the first speech, supercharged by AI, where we have Maria de Brastafer and Elena Aversa. Let me stop sharing my screen so Maria can start sharing her own presentation. And Maria is Digital Affairs Policy and Research Officer at IFLA. She leads on work at the intersection of digital inclusion, freedom of access to information, and internet governance. Her current role focuses on leveraging the knowledge and expertise of the global library infrastructure to meet digital inclusion goals. She also coordinates partnerships and joint initiatives with Internet Fora to facilitate a bridge between their work and the work of libraries. Maria holds a Master's of Science in Public Policy and Human Development from the United Nations University and Maastricht University, and is passionate about information literacy, peace, and education, in particular to themes and initiatives that cater to underserved communities. After Maria, we will have Elena Aversa showing us the other side of the story, because you will understand we work together on this project. Elena Aversa is information designer and postdoc researcher at Density Design, Politecnico di Milano, Italy. She's adjunct professor at Politecnico di Milano, NABA, and Poly.Design. She holds a PhD in information design, a master's degree in communication design, and a bachelor's degree in architecture. Her work involves information visualization, digital media, and information literacy, DMIL, digital methods, and audience-centered approaches to evaluating information visualizations. So in their presentation, they will talk about this very important project. They will describe it shortly, and then we will discuss it together. So I'm leaving the floor to Maria at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Matilde. Can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Matilde, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. So as Matilde said, today I'm really happy to be here to talk about the Supercharged by AI initiative, but more importantly, to reflect also on its results and what they tell us about how our library is contributing to tackling AI challenges. And so just to start and to give you a brief overview of the project, just to let you know, the project original name is MILSERV, which stands by Media and Information Literacy for Societal Resilience. But Supercharged by AI, the name that you have probably seen, is the name of the exhibition and also the resources that were implemented via the project. And well, as you can see on the slides, the main goal of this exhibition was to increase the resilience of local communities in Europe in the themes that are related to AI, which are the themes that you see there. And the reason why these themes were chosen is because these themes came up as a result of a series of scoping sessions that were conducted with libraries, where we identified what were their most immediate needs in terms of digital literacy. So this is what came up after these sessions. And to achieve this, the idea was to conduct a project which was meant to be an interactive exhibition across 10 countries in Europe. So in this case, it meant partnering with 10 different libraries or 10 different library associations in each of these countries. And then at the same time, having those libraries or associations coordinate with other branch libraries within their own countries to organize at least 5 exhibitions within their own regions. And so amounting to a total of 50 events, which was the target in a time frame of about 18 months. And also just to tell you a little bit more about it, the target, in this case, the target region was Europe, because this was a project that was funded by the European Media and Information Fund, which is a fund established by the Gulbenkian Foundation. And the partners involved in the implementation, besides EFLA, were also the Tactical Technology Collective, which is a nonprofit organization based in Berlin, and also Density Design Lab, a research lab at the design department in the Politecnico di Milano, Italy, who are also going to talk today during this session. And so now I won't talk too much about the materials now, because this is something that will be addressed by my colleague Elena, but just to briefly give you an idea, the resources were a series of interactive posters, and they also included an interactive book, a detox kit, and also 2 workshops with the names Deeply Harmful and Stories of Online Harassments. And these were also accompanied by a print and a set of manual for the facilitators and not the libraries to be able to implement it. And so in addition to that, something that is interesting is that we decided to set up 3 monitoring mechanisms to assess what had been the impact of the exhibition. And so in this case, these monitoring mechanisms were 3. And so first, what we did is that we conducted library focus groups. So these focus groups were run by the program evaluator with the libraries who were implementing the project. From the side of EFLA, we implemented library surveys. And so we did 1 library survey per implementing library, which was divided into parts. And in the first part, we wanted to understand how libraries, how prepared libraries felt to implement the project, how they had learned, but also what were their observations and perhaps their reflections from the interactions they had with the participants of the exhibition and the workshops. And then the second part, the third mechanism that we implemented were the visitor surveys, which were surveys that were embedded in some of these interactive posters and that were answered by some of the participants of the exhibition. And in this case, these visitor surveys had a baseline and a follow-up survey to evaluate how much the people who participated in the exhibition had learned. And so, just to give you at the bottom below a little bit of an idea of some of the sample questions that we included for the visitors, participants, and also for the libraries and associations. And yeah, to tell you some extra details about it, well, as you can see, we were very glad because in the end, we exceeded the target we had. So we did a total of 63 exhibitions. So even though the target was originally to do 5 exhibitions per country, some of the library networks decided to do more. And they are still doing more, which we're very glad about. And we had an average total of 31,146 visitors on average, as reported by the library networks. And we also rank among all the country exhibitions an average of 26 workshops, which is also interesting because the workshops were not a mandatory component of the project, but they were developed because a lot of the libraries, well, they felt like they needed a second component to follow up on what the participants had learned via the exhibition. So yeah, this was also ended up being a really important resource for us to better understand what the people had learned with the resources. And also to give you some idea of what were the age group of the participants. So as you can see, the biggest group, age group of the participants was quite young because a lot of the participant libraries were either academic, school, or university libraries. So a big majority were younger than 18 or between 18 and 29. However, we also had many other age groups that were prominent, particularly from the public libraries who implemented the exhibition. And we were also very happy to see that there were also many participants that were 70 and above, which was also one of the most important reflections we did on how, well, we realized that there's not a lot of these types of interventions that sometimes are addressed to more senior participants. But yeah, this is just to give you an idea overall of how the project was about. And I also wanted to show you some photos of the exhibition. In this case, you can see some photos of the exhibition taking place in Ukraine and Croatia and also in the UK. So as of today, the materials, well, the project has officially concluded and the materials have been made publicly available via an open access resource that we can also share with you in case you are interested. And another thing that I think is important to mention is that in here, for example, I also added a photo of one of the libraries who was not originally part of the, well, initial group of libraries that were participated in the project. And it is the photo on the lower left corner. It was when this exhibition was implemented in a library in Ivory Coast. And this is because even upon the closure of the project, a lot of libraries requested that they wanted to use the materials as they are openly accessible. So they were also translated to other languages that were not originally part of the project. And so, well, as you can see, the exhibition is still expanding in other countries or regions outside of Europe, which was one of the main ambitions of the project, to well, engage in an initiative that is not just well, widespread across Europe, but can also be scalable in the context of other countries. And also, more importantly, that can be sustainable. That doesn't require such a big investment to be, well, spread across regions. So yeah, this is all I wanted to tell you for now, just to give you a brief introduction and a brief idea of the exhibition. I believe we will go a little bit more in depth about the details of it in the conversation, but for now I'm going to leave you with this, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And I leave you the floor again, Matilda. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Now we'll wait for Elena to share her slides, and she's going to tell us, well, this exhibition, Italy participated, was one of the 10 countries initially involved. I must say we're reaching 50 libraries at the moment because it's really available now in many languages on Zenodo, so that's a point. It could be really used by any library. So if Elena is ready, I'm giving the floor to her.
Yes. Thank you, Matilde, and welcome everyone. In the next, let's say, 10 minutes, I will share, maybe less, I will share the perspective of us designers in the process of designing the artifact for the exhibition Supercharged by AI that Maria already introduced. And I will also share some reactions we collected from visitors and from librarians during the day the exhibition was open. Okay. So as Maria already said in her presentation, the exhibition traveled to more than 10 countries in and outside Europe. And for this reason, we designed the artifacts of the exhibition to be lightweight and easy to scale. In fact, as you can see from the pictures in the slides, all materials were printed on paper and in formats that the libraries could easily manage on their own. As you can see also, the setup of the exhibition was very open and flexible, and each library adapted the exhibition in its own way. Mainly, we designed a total of 6 artifacts, but the main part of this exhibition, let's say, were these 4 artifacts you can see on the slides. So 3 posters, which are the 3 on the top, that focus on online harassment, online scams, and political influence, and 2 books that focused more on the nationality stereotypes embedded in AI-generated images. In designing these artifacts, let's say that we had 2 main challenges. The first one regarded scalability, because the artifacts were translated in 10 languages. So we had to face also the challenge of designing something that could be translated in different languages. But on the other end, the other challenge regarded clarity, because this artifact and the exhibition in general was designed as a media and information literacy tool for a broad public. And this is also why we designed 3 evaluation activities for testing how effective these artifacts were in transmitting knowledge to the people. As you can see from the 4 artifacts, each artifact contains one visual model, which is a way we found to visualize some data we collected from different online sources. I would like to share with you a few excerpts and a few quotes that we collected during our evaluation activities with visitors and librarians at the Archimede Library in Italy, which was one of the libraries that hosted the exhibition. I told you before that we developed 3 different evaluation methodologies. One was a survey that was run in all the 10 different countries where the exhibition was hosted, and other 2 methodologies were specifically designed for the Settimo Library in Italy. So we ran 1 week of participant observation. So we observed different visitors engaging with all the artifacts, and then a final focus group with visitors, but also librarians. I'm going to share with you some of the quotes that we extracted from these 2 last moments, because I think that they capture some of the different reaction that the artifacts sparked in people. Sorry. Starting from the poster on online harassment, which was quite a complex and rich poster in terms of information. It visualized a network of stories from people that experienced harassment on different digital platforms. And this network was organized on multiple layers of reading. To support this kind of complexity, we also designed a web app that worked somehow as a lens that helped visitors to decode and explore the different layers that were part of this very big network. So because of this complexity, the artifact sparked the most reflection in visitors, or at least this is what we observed. Let's say that mainly the poster was useful for visitors because it helped them give name to specific behaviors and to specific situations. And I think this is very important with online harassment, because when something has a name and it has a description, it becomes easier to recognize and to say, yes, it happened to me. For instance, we had one visitor that experiencing with the poster learned that learned the term flaming, and realized that they had experienced that kind of harassment in an online gaming context. The two posters that we designed on online scams and political influence, let's say that we observed that led to many people sharing their personal stories. What was interesting in that is that they rarely spoke about themselves, but instead they often described someone else that they knew that, for instance, fall for a scam. And sometimes even laughing as if to say, I wouldn't fall for it, but someone I know did. And let's say that cousin and parents were the most mentioned. But also boomers, which according to the visitor seem to be the more likely to be to fall into AI supercharged scams. Finally, as I mentioned in the beginning, we designed a book on stereotypes embedded into AI generated images. And this book was designed as a guessing game. So visitors were shown different grids of images generated by AI of families and workers, and they were asked to guess their nationality. What we observed is that this activity helped them realize how deeply stereotypes are embedded in all of us, and how AI systems, which are trained on our data, end up, let's say, supercharging our assumption and our preconception. The books presented national stereotypes related to European countries, and at some point we had one visitor who was from Morocco that recognized his own stereotype, saying that from his perspective, Europeans tend to look the same. Finally, I would like to conclude this brief intervention with two quotes that really struck me. And that I think that show why this kind of initiatives, I think, matter in our society. We saw that for many people, the exhibition was a moment of critical reflection where they learned new things about what AI can affect us, how AI can affect us in our online lives. But in some other cases, we saw that visitor clearly expressed resistance to the AI. Some felt threatened by AI, others even said they didn't believe in AI, almost as if it was a form of magic. And for this reason, I believe that it becomes essential to promote this kind of initiatives to raise awareness and to demystify AI in a way that we can somehow remove the aura of magic, of mystery around it, and instead explain how it actually works, what its limits are, and what the technical foundation behind it, and maybe also the ways it could be like useful for us in a way that doesn't affect, let's say, badly our lives. And that was it with my intervention. I think we can have more time for questions and to go deeper into the details. Of course, I didn't have the time to tell you everything about the poster, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Elena. Okay, we had decided previously to have a short conversation among speakers afterward, but I'm looking at the time, TikTok ticking away. So I'm just asking one question to Elena and Maria from their two different points of view. How much do you think it matters that this kind of intervention happens in libraries? And to Elena especially, did you discover something unexpected about libraries? Is your vision of libraries after being as a designer in libraries to use them as spaces, does it change anything? And to Maria, if you perceive the advocacy effect of this exhibition.
Okay, I can go first. Okay, thank you for the question. I think it's really interesting also because it's very tied to my experience with libraries, because for me, I have to say it was a really meaningful experience. And I personally learned a lot from this kind of experience, especially during the evaluation phase, where I was for almost 7 or 8 days into in one of these libraries of the network in Settimo Torinese in Italy, where I had the chance to speak not only with visitors, but also, and more importantly, with librarians. What I discovered is, let's say, a truly rich and interesting ecosystems that I wasn't aware before. That library, the Settimo Torinese Library in particular, organizes a lot of initiatives aimed at civic inclusion and a lot of initiative for people and citizens from that city. And what I found interesting is that that space was a safe space for people. So people were gathering there to learn more about lots of different stuff, but also to find a place where they could feel safe to know new stuff and to ask for questions. And also the other thing that was very interesting for me is that it's a place where you can see a lot of different people. For instance, in the morning, we saw a lot of elderly coming for reading newspapers, then students for preparing their exams. In the afternoon, a lot of young people. So libraries, I think, are very important places to reach a broad public and for this kind of initiatives above all. And yes, for me, it was a very deeply formative experience, and I really hope to continue working in this kind of context in the future.
Thank you. Maria?
Thank you, Matilde. Yeah, so for me, it was also very interesting experience. Also, well, coming from someone who's a bit more inside in the library world, I could say that, well, it was very interesting first to observe one of the main challenges we realized, for example, is that there was a big social and technical divide between how some of the topics were being given in the libraries. And so we realized, particularly perhaps in some of the universities, there were already some of the students or perhaps some of the library staff already had some ongoing education or courses on AI, but perhaps it was not done in parallel with that technical aspect of it and vice versa. And so one of the big things that we notice is that, well, the importance of doing both of these both of this delivering both of this content at the same time to these audiences. I also realized that in some of those libraries, this kickstarted some internal processes. So for example, with some of the library surveys, some librarians said that they had reflected perhaps about own internal policies when it comes to AI use or the implementation of AI platforms in the library. And for example, there's a lot of people who are already using the systems, but perhaps there's no policies in place that can already give guidance on what to do or what not to do. And so this is something that I found really important, that sometimes these initiatives like this can sort of have that spark to make people think in some of these processes that are so necessary. And also, well, in terms of advocacy, we saw that a lot of libraries engage in new partnerships. So, for example, some of the libraries took the exhibition to other places or invited potential collaborators to visit the exhibition. And what I think from my perspective, what was also very important is that a lot of the libraries used the exhibition to signal in some cases directly or indirectly to non-library stakeholders and non-library actors that libraries are also very valuable partners when it comes to digital and in this case to AI literacy. Which is also an often, and not everyone assumes externally perhaps that libraries have that capacity, and the reality is that, with this project we proved that it's not only there, but it's also, it can spread very fast across many networks. So I think there's a really big value in doing these types of initiatives, in libraries.
Okay, thank you. I was forgetting to tell everyone, the attendance, that there is a space, you might have seen it by now, it's Q&A, where you can ask questions. And well, I think what Maria and Elena told us is very interesting, because also, like Maria put it correctly, it's an opportunity also from my point of view of observation. It was an opportunity for libraries to show a different image of themselves. But at the same time, it's very important to reach out to as many people as possible, to get them ready, to get them to know what AI is, because it can be a very great support that helps us navigate the world of information, which is so complex and full. I mean, we really cannot think of finding information by ourselves anymore. I mean, we find always something, but do we find the most reliable or so? And in that sense, we have now the contribution, another story. So when we are not afraid of AI and use it, put it to use, what happens is what happened at the public libraries in Berlin, Verbund der öffentlichen Bibliotheken Berlins, where we'll have now Tilman Scheel and Moritz Mutter telling us about it from two different points of view, because Tilman Scheel is the designer and Moritz Mutter is the librarian again. So Tilman Scheel studied law and art history. I'm leaving the screen to them so they can start sharing. So Tilman studied law and art history. He's CEO of AVA and Ask. Ask is about something. He's building. He will tell us now what he does. So in 2004, he founded Realport.com, a website for managing film festival submissions. Since 2018, he has been running the Ava Watch, a video-on-demand service for libraries, to facilitate access to over 1,100 films. He and his team developed Ask. Launched in June 2024, Ask is the world's first AI-powered recommendation bot for public and academic libraries. Moritz Mutter is the head of digital services at the Service Center for the Berlin Public Libraries. So I'm leaving the floor to them, who will tell us this story from two different and interactive points of view. Thank you. Tilman, yeah.
Yes. Oh, so welcome to our brief presentation. I have seen in the participants some names that look familiar, so some people might have seen me before. Still welcome. I hope you get aspects of our presentation that are new to you too. So what are we talking about? So what you see here is the website of the Libraries of Berlin. On the bottom right, you see a chatbot icon, by the way, which was also designed by a chatbot by ChatGPT, and then it kind of a little bit worked upon by us. And then once you click this item, the chatbot opens and you can ask for recommendations and other things that also Moritz will talk about. The chatbot answers to you in any language. It's on the public website of the Libraries of Berlin, so feel free to use it yourself. When we started, as Matilda just said, in June 2024, we were the first recommendation bot by any public library around the world. So that made kind of a wave. Also, I think what is important to note is that even though Moritz comes from the library, he's deeply entrenched into developing this chatbot, because many of the prompts that control the bot were written by him. Also, those you can actually, in their public domain, not public domain, they're open. So if you're interested in how to how we use this chatbot and how we steer this chatbot, you can access that on GitHub. All right. I do the bit of the technical part, which I think is also important, because you need to a little bit to understand on how AI works. And please remember that at the beginning of the internet, you also had to learn terminology such as Wi-Fi and emails. You know, all of these things were invented at some point and had to be learned. And I think with AI, this AI literacy on learning the terminology and understanding a little bit how AI works is just very important in order to form your own opinion about it. So as Matilda said in the beginning, thank you for that. AI shows us only what we put inside. So this slide particularly is about how to get your own monkey into the machine. Of course, the AI knows a lot. That's the famous training data that the LLM providers like OpenAI and Google and Mistral and whatnot put inside. But this webinar or this intervention is about how to get the library data into the bot, so you can actually provide the bot with the knowledge that it can answer the questions of the library patrons. So, this is how it works. This is, by the way, how every chatbot, every generative AI process works. It's the so-called RAG system, Retrieval Augmented Generation. It has two components. The lower component is how to get the metadata in, and the upper component is, once the metadata is in, how to conduct conversations with it. So on the left, outside the box, you have the institutions, libraries, museums, archives, whoever wants to make its content chattable. Of course, that the data comes not directly through these institutions. Most of the times it comes through library management systems, databases, website databases, and so forth. This data is then sent to us, in the case of libraries, mostly in terms of Mark 21. And the Mark 21 data is then prepared into so-called chunks, because it comes in large boxes, and the library data and the AI cannot manage large quantities of data. So we chunk it up, and we then send it for the first time from our backend to the to AI, to the embedding engine, where all these data that you provide to the library, for example, in the case of Mark 21, is turned into so-called embeddings, which is nothing else, or vector embeddings. So it's actually a vector, and in this particular case, this vector is used as embedding, which is nothing else but a long number. But the important thing about this number, about this embedding, is that it cannot only store the literal meaning of a word. So, if you put in a sentence, the dog chases the cat, then not only the word dog is stored in the or turned into an embedding, but all the meaning around the dog as well. So the whole sentence, the dog chases a cat, and the meaning of that is also codified in this number, so to speak. So once this embedding process is done, this large number, the vector, is stored in a vector database. Then in the vector database, it rests. This is where your data is then ready for AI to use. Okay, so how is it being used? Now we go in the top section, and there you have a user. The user has, stands there like this, has a question, or wants to chat, or wants to know something. And so it asks or types in something into the bot. Then with what you, so for example, I want to read, I don't know, a book of Immanuel Kant, or something lighter of Harry Potter. This sentence, something like Harry Potter, is then also sent by the bot to the embedding model and turned into this large number. This large number is then also sent to the vector database, and there's something that is called the similarity search is conducted, where this a number is compared to the other numbers of your data, and the most relevant numbers are then again sent to the to a large language model, to the AI, which then picks the right amount of answers based on the prompts that you provided it. And then it checks with the prompts, and the prompts are like commands, which is something that Moritz will talk about in more depth. And these commands tell the bot how to behave. So do you want to address the people formally, or do you want to address them more informally, like hey buddy? Or do you and also in the prompts it's managed how you for example, you can add additional data. And then once the LLM has looked at the prompts, looked at the results from the vector database, it sends the answer to the bot, which then in turn talks to the user. So this is how every RAG system works, and you can count on it that whatever system you encounter that uses your data, this is the way it does. In every step of this, let's say, two circles, the data circle and the conversational circle, there are some issues that we cannot discuss in the time that we have. We want to focus on the prompts because the prompts are also the way a library can itself directly influence the answers and the results that the bot provides to its users. So this is okay. It will not become more technical than that. So I finished the technical prompt. One more minute here, because also I think terminology is important. This is our terminology, but the content, of course, is the same everywhere. You can use the bot, so just the one bot you also have seen on the website for different purposes. So for example, we started with a recommendation bot that recommends books to users. But of course, whenever you provide something to a user where they can type in, they type in whatever. So they type in what are the opening hours, what are the events this weekend. So we quickly introduced these information as well. This is why information bot is, but of course it's different kind of data. It's not Mark 21 data. It's data that you provide specifically for your library. And of course, in the end, there's the document bot where you can upload any amount of documents. The Scopus AI for university libraries by Elsevier, or also through us. You can just talk not only about the documents or like in the recommendation bot, but with the documents. Here, the biggest topic, of course, is copyright, and that you cannot just put in there any book and then allow the users of the library to read. I hope at some point this will happen, but I think the copyright issues have to be addressed in depth. So, and then of course, so these are different faces of bots that are in the various libraries. At the top, you have the FEP and the Berlin libraries, but of course, you can choose a character. These are all different bots for various libraries. And I think for us, that's kind of part of the fun of it, that whatever you do with AI, you can really tailor it to your own library, to your own needs, to your own way of talking to your own patrons, whatever you design. So, for example, the bottom right is a children's bot. The bottom top left is a university bot. So whatever you do, just pick your face, pick your name, and serve your customers. And with that, I am closing, and I'm handing over to Moritz.
Yes, thank you. This was the technical introduction, the technical solutions. Now Moritz is going to tell us the story.
Yes.
The library
Yes.
point of view.
I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
And we will, can you see that?
Yeah.
We will do 3 things. We'll see how far we get. I'm just going to show you real quickly what happens when I put something into the chat box. And that is English now. When it started in German, you can see that. And then I said something English to it, and now it automatically switches, and I can do that with 150 or 190 languages, basically. The titles that it finds in that system that Timon described are still German now. The reason for that is that a large portion of our stocks is in German. We could also ask it for English language novels now, but that's it. You can also see that one thing that this system is not is a research system, because we cut off the number of recommendations at 5. Sometimes it might just be 2 if there's no more in the system in our metadata. But there's a lot more items in our collection that would fit that description of crime novel that plays by the sea. But we only return 5. And one thing that makes it quite different from a normal search engine is that if I do this again now, there might be different results. That is something that is very much by design, because we want people to take inspiration from that and not use it. It's recommendations, it's not research. There's also research bots out there. I think the Goethe might have one, or Springer, and all these research service providers, but that's not what our chatbot is. One reason for that is simply that we are the public libraries of Berlin, and people like to just get recommendations on what to read next. That's a question of use cases. The second thing I'm going to show you, and I hope you see, yeah, that works. The second thing, and we're going to share a link to, this is our open source meta prompt for our chatbot. This is in German now, but I'm gonna do a little bit of translating. This is just where we tell the large language model, the AI system, what its use case is and how it should behave when in contact with the user. So, and that is, it's something like coding. It's something like a programming language, but it's also not, because I can take my own words. It doesn't have to have a specific form. Even this pseudo XML structure is basically arbitrary. I could do something else there. It's just something that works quite well. And it starts with, you are an AI recommendation assistant for FEP, and you recommend titles from the library catalog. That is the English translation of that sentence. And that I just tell the system what it is and what it should do. And it goes on with, this can be books, it can be ebooks, it can be music, it can be movies, and it can also be some physical devices. And that is interesting because I told him that it's an assistant for a library, and that means I probably wouldn't have to write this, because the concept of library for that AI system somehow has connections to books and even ebooks and music and movies. That's something that everybody knows, and that's in the training data that you can borrow from a library. But I have to tell it that there's also, and that is something that in Berlin we have quite a lot of, you can a screwdriver, you can borrow a screwdriver in and that's not something that is in the general notion of library as represented in the training data. So that is something that I have to tell it here in this text. And then it goes on and on and on. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I also tell the bot how it should construct its first message to the user. So if I click here, and then it greets me with this message. This message is not defined, but it is described in the beginning. Stelle dich kurz vor, so introduce yourself, explain your role, and so on. And that's a long text. That's 3 pages, I think, where all of that is defined. And I'm going to go into one more little detail. I have a presentation. I'm not going to do most of the stuff because we're really short on time, but there are some trade-offs in designing and working with a system like that. The first is you can choose models, and you have fast models that are cheap. You have very smart. They're not really smart. They're just capable in some sense. You know, there's not smart models that are not as quick normally and also much more expensive. That's one trade-off. The size of the meta prompt 2, the file that you've just seen, the text, we have now 3 pages. It used to be 5 pages, makes it slow. But it also makes it more detailed. And maybe it can do its job better, the system. Then there's the question of user experience. I can tell the system to reply quickly with recommendation, or to ask follow-up questions. Our experience now is nobody likes the follow-up questions. Nobody, if the AI asks me, oh, I didn't understand you quite so well, can you give me more details about what you're looking for? People just abort. They're gone. They're never going to answer that follow-up question that the AI posed to them. Then that's a technical thing. You can choose the number of dimensions in the embedding in the vector database, in the embedding model. We chosen 2000, and we're doing fine with that so far, but you can go higher, you can go lower, and that's also a question of cost, speed, and stuff. And then there's hosting locally, which you can do. You can just buy GPUs or rent them and run your own models on them, or using APIs by the model providers. This was quite the ride, I think, quite fast maybe, but I think I'm going to give back to you, Matilda, for some questions that people might have for us.
Okay, thank you. So the point is, I tested it in many languages, like you said, it was really interesting. Well, the first consideration to me, well, I'm not seeing questions at the moment. So the first consideration that your presentation brings to my mind is, well, there's a lot of choices you must make when you start things like that. It's not like, not the GPT model we have in mind. Go and ask the machine, it will give you an answer. You have to ask very, very carefully, not let the machine run wild. That's exactly what you want. And this is relates to what we were saying at the beginning. So I was wondering, how do you keep how hard is it to the maintenance of a system like that? Because I guess also, keeping, for example, the information the machine gives up to date, because the catalog is the catalog. But if you have to give examples on opening hours or so, what in the meantime, Ambra, share the link to your website so people can go and test the.
Okay, the maintenance, that's a really good question. And these are strange systems as far as computer systems go, as far as machines go, because they are non-deterministic and they are not static. This means two things. The small thing is these large language models have a pre-training, and then they have a post-training, fine training, I think it's called. And that happens basically constantly. There are firms, freelancers and small companies that do that. Let's say for OpenAI, they choose between different answers, which one is the better one, and that can change the model's behavior. So it's not a static, it's a machine, but it's non-deterministic and it's non-static. So it can happen. That's something that worked a week ago. Through some changes in OpenAI's models, does not work today. And that is not easy to find out. So I have to really just constantly do checks again and again to see if there's a need to change something in the meta prompt, for example. And the other thing is there's different models. And these models get deprecated. There's no GPT-3 model available anymore. 4.0 is the oldest one and they're gonna switch that off anytime. And changing from one, even if it's an OpenAI model, let's say changing from model 4.0 to model 5.2 will, I know that already because I tried it, will absolutely require me to rewrite the meta prompt. These are these instructions that we give the bot basically completely, which is strange because you think that these models might be similar, but their behavior can be really different. If I just switch the model in this bot now, it's going to look totally different. It's going to sound different. The tone of voice is going to be different. The things that it might recommend to us might be different. And there's no real way, there's no documentation by OpenAI, for example, that can really tell you what sort of behavior one of these LLMs will show in a certain situation. We just have to try it out. I mean, they say about their models, this one's a warm one, and this one talks a little too much. This one's really good at getting to the point, but that doesn't mean anything. In a practical sense, for me, working with that system, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't tell me really, tells me nothing, basically. So yeah, there is some maintenance, and it's not the normal maintenance you do in a software system. It's a little different because they are non-static, non-deterministic machines. But it's really interesting also, and it's been a lot of fun for me. I can say that.
And what about your users? Are they appreciating the tool? And did you notice an impact on the library services, on all these collections, etc., from this tool?
We have a little, our website is a little outdated from a technical standpoint. Not the chatbot, that's a real modern system, but the thing that's underneath it. So I can't really say very much about how these conversations translate, let's say, into checkouts. I can say that the users that use the chatbot, they think it's a good system. They are like three quarters say that the answers are good, and about as much the same amount says they're gonna keep using it. We have a feedback form, and that's something I did quite extensively. We collected feedback, and then people said, "Oh, it can't do this. This was wrong. This is not a rational answer for any system to give for that question." And then I just took that feedback and I worked it into the meta prompt and tested and tested and tested again. That has been something that is really beneficial for us, just having a feedback mechanism where you can really have a fast turnover in changing the system and then testing again and seeing how people react and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. In the meantime, I saw that Tilman answered a question individually. If you would like to enlarge on that, Tilman.
Very quickly, I get whether you can use whether you can host locally, and mostly this the question is also then whether you can use open source. Of course you can. I just the only thing is that it just costs more money, because of course you have to have the infrastructure. But the second thing is two things to consider is that maintenance can be quite costly, because then it is pretty much up to you to update the system whenever new models come out, because of course the user expect a behavior that is trained on ChatGPT or Gemini. And if you step back and deliver less good or not equal behavior, then they will be dissatisfied and leave, and then you can just not use the system anymore. So you have to constantly update your own installation then to the developments. And the second thing, of course, is output control. I didn't write that, but it's very important, because of course you have to have inclusion, you have to have diversity, and you have to have control of extremist or bad behavior of the bot. And the big commercial LLMs do a very good job in that. Open source models, you really have to be careful that they don't provide different answers or bad answers to difficult questions.
Thank you. So since we were talking of keeping our webinar to 1 hour, it's 1 hour, 6 minutes now. I'm closing with one last consideration, because after I watched the recording of the past webinar, which was on users' engagement. So do you think such tools enhance users' engagement? Do you think, this is a question for even for Maria and Elena, do you think this kind of the intervention like the chatbot or like the exhibition could enhance users' engagement in the library and fidelization also, keeping them, not just saying, wow, a great do, I'll get back another time when I remember, or if you think they can change the vision and enhance their use of the library.
May I? Of course, I'm a bit biased, so take everything with. I think, of course, when Murat and I presented the obvious use case, so that you can ask the bot different questions than you can ask search slit. So you can ask emotional questions, I'm bored, or you can ask, just be inspired. And also the bot, the bot can make lists of books for you sorted by publication date or by age rating and stuff. So there's it makes conversations more efficient, or more individual. But actually, I think what I think is fascinating is that it allows. So, and this is a general remark on AI. AI in the moment is mostly about making things more efficient or just a little bit different that already exist. I think a very interesting topic is whether AI can do stuff that doesn't yet exist so far. So, for example, connecting various. So, for example, letting the bot also talk about an exhibition, on AI in the library. So, what is the topic of this exhibition? What were the risks that you have seen? So you can actually communicate in a very different way than you could before, or link to other data in the real world, in events, or to museums that you can, with it, collaborate with the museum and then provide books about what is happening in the museum through the library. So to collect data and put it together to have new use cases, new ideas, new models that haven't been possible before because the data was too diverse. So that's that I think actually to think about what it can do, what wasn't possible before, is the real, I think, magic of AI.
Oh, thank you. I had seen a raised hand. Was it Maria?
Yeah, it was me. I just wanted to add, no, I think, well, from our view and seeing everything that Tilma and Moritz presented, I also think this is, yeah, I think initiatives like this, it's, for example, I see this initiative and everything they just shared and what we did via the Supercharge exhibition. And I think this is one of those, well, perfect opportunities to maybe bring together the social and technical aspects, which is one of the biggest gaps, that we saw via the exhibition results, and perhaps give people in libraries more, practical experience, not just an understanding perhaps the ethical, the social concerns and challenges, but then maybe also hands-on experience, and perhaps it's a way of it's a good way of moving forward, putting these types of initiatives together. So yeah, I think it would be great.
Moritz, any opinion on this?
Yeah, the same thing Maria said. I think bringing these two things together, which is something that we, the Berlin Public Libraries, we try. I wouldn't say we're very far in that, but that is definitely one goal in the whole system and in the whole project. So I can only confirm that.
Okay. Unless Elena has got anything to add? You don't? Okay. So I think time is up. We don't want to take too much of people's time. I think you had an overview of what can be done with AI in libraries. More ideas can come. And feel free to contact us anytime. The slides will follow as the recording. don't forget, next week on the 5th of March, there's the last webinar of this series on digital transformation. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.